What's going on, my fellow A-plusers? It is I, your Morphinominal host, Adam Perez, and we are back once again with another Zenkaiger episode review as we're going to be getting into episode number 22. And can I just say to start off, guys, it is so good to be back in front of the camera, bringing you guys reviews. I was off for about a good week. I was visiting New York to go ahead and visit my family. We did have a memorial service for my grandmother last weekend. Got the opportunity to go back to some very familiar stomping grounds, some areas in which I grew up with, reconnecting with my family members and things like that. So very emotional, but very fantastic time I certainly had in New York. But I'm certainly back. It felt kind of weird to like not pick up my phone and post anything, or really sit in front of a camera and talk about some of my favorite shows. I truly felt like I went MIA for the whole entire week, honestly. But it's good to be back. Hopefully it's good to see my familiar face again. But we're going to be getting into Zenkaiger episode number 22 a little bit late this week, but of course I didn't actually get back into town until Tuesday evening, so had to just chilled out for a minute, got my feet under me because I didn't take an additional day off of work. So I came back like Tuesday afternoon and had to wake up Wednesday to go ahead and get right back to work, if you will. So this is my first time watching anything really associated with APlus Morphinominal or even APlus Hero Report, so I feel like I'm a little bit behind, but I'm back in the saddle, guys, back to go ahead and provide fantastic content for you guys this week. So it's good to see you, all your beautiful faces. Even though I can't technically see you, it's great to certainly be back. Real quick thing of business, for those of you who are curious as to what the upcoming Super Sentai reaction videos that we're going to be doing, I probably will be dropping a video for you guys to give you all an update as I have settled on what the next one certainly is going to be. We did Gokaiger just previously, but we are going to be starting a brand new Super Sentai season for you guys to certainly look forward to. I calculated all the votes that we wind up getting over the past several weeks, and we did in fact have a winner, so I definitely will be announcing that for you guys this week, so certainly look out for that. But without further ado, guys, episode number 22 of Zenkaiger. And I was kind of hoping for a little bit of a better episode than what we got. Like, I didn't mind this episode. I honestly didn't. There were some things I enjoyed about it, some things that I certainly didn't. Some things that I didn't, and some things that I certainly did. It just didn't, like, enhance my pulse any, right? I wasn't feeling super enthusiastic going into this. And I think for me, what really kind of I'm wondering if what's not doing it for me in this episode was really the villain of the week. I felt like it was just super underwhelming with the bullfighting world that we wind up getting. Aside from that, I really like some of the character work that we wind up getting. Gaon really shined in here, getting to see Stacy having to struggle with some decisions, seeing what he could potentially be getting into. Love the character work in that sense, if you will. But when all the pieces are really working and connecting together, that's when I feel like we get some really stellar episodes of Zenkaiger. So for me, when it comes to this episode, I didn't mind it. It just didn't do too much for me, if you get what I'm trying to say. For instance, right, bullfighting world in here, he's got the ability to go ahead and give people sort of a bull's mentality, even sort of transform them a little bit into bulls by giving them horns and things like that. And it really has the ability to set to kind of attack any color that the bull world winds up deciding on, and it just didn't seem too threatening to me. And I think that's where it kind of got lost. Like the idea of chasing around some of our Zenkaigers, right? Like there's a scene when Zenkaiger gets into the bus and he's running away from the bulls, and they finally corner him as he's trying to get out of the window. Like the bulls are like just slapping him, and I'm just like, really? Is that's all they do when they actually confront you? So there was never any risk involved or any sort of anything that I really had to sort of worry about in this sense. So for me, it's just kind of truly underwhelmed. I didn't really see anything that our Zenkaigers in general had to be fearful of, and it felt like for the most part he was relatively easy to go ahead and take out once you get outside of the idea of him turning just regular people into bulls. So a little bit boring in that sense, with absolutely no risk. So I really wasn't worried about the situations that our Zenkaigers found themselves in. But Zenkaiser certainly felt that he needed to go ahead and power up for this bull, which I personally didn't think so. And he winds up trying to call out to the Zenkaiju gear. But unfortunately, the Zenkaiju gear doesn't respond to him, and we quickly come to find out exactly as why, as we get a little bit of a flashback of Gaon cooking a delicious meal for Kaido, getting it ready, but clearly the Zenkaiju gear has other plans as he starts trying to eat some of Kaido's food, and we get the altercation between Gaon that winds up sort of shooing him off or chasing him around the candy shop sort of thing, really trying to get him away from the food, and we see the Zenkaiju-Oh, or the Zenkaiju gear, just kind of leave the premises, if you will, just kind of leave out of the front door. Nobody's able to hear from this guy or this gear for majority of the episode. So Gaon clearly blames himself for certainly what happened in this episode, and so does Jiren, who winds up really giving him an earful in here. I mean, Jiren really kind of jumps to conclusions in the sense of thinking that Gaon sort of treated the Zenkaiju gear the same way that he treats any other Kikai Noi, right? Like, if there is anything that we know about Gaon, is that he tends to be a little bit prejudiced against his own people. Absolutely loves animals, absolutely loves humans, any living thing, you will, except his own people. The idea of Kikai Noids being robots, he certainly feels some type of way about it. So when I think of this episode and I see sort of the spot that Jiren puts Gaon in to really allow Gaon some sort of inner reflection of his own life and things like that, I really enjoyed that here in this week's episode. I feel like even though Gaon may not necessarily be my favorite character, he does rub me the wrong way in regards to how he treats his own people. I have been fascinated, at least, to kind of see what his character growth is certainly going to look like, and it feels like he certainly has had sort of a come to Jesus moment where he really has had to do some inner reflection and kind of look at himself in the mirror and see exactly how he's sort of treating people. And one of the things that I loved about this episode is getting to see Gaon as he leaves the group, sulking, sitting down on a park bench. He gets the opportunity to see a group of kids, mostly humans, with like one Kikai Noid there as their friend, and he just sees them playing around with one another. The Kikai Noid trips, hurts itself. The human kids are there to go ahead and lift him back up, dust him off, see if he's okay, sort of thing. It is just an amazing, the idea of like some of the lessons that you can kind of learn from just from kids in general, right? They always say the idea that kids, they don't grow up sort of seeing color or really seeing differences. They always, especially when they're young, they just always want to play and just be around you or get to know you, sort of thing. It's a great sort of mentality. They say, kids aren't born racists, right? Like, it's the idea that they, it's outwardly influences that sort of change kids' minds and mentality as they sort of get older. And I think this was a perfect example of that they don't necessarily see color. They just see another kid that's friendly to them, that they want to take care of and help out and have a good time with. And I love that it impacts Gaon in such a way to where he realizes even some of his own faults, right? That he's got great friends that really admire him or, really give him boosts of confidence from time to time. The fact that he can go back to his own personal memories, see Kaido and the rest of the gang giving him thumbs up, praising him for being so good at certainly what he does. He realizes that he's got a great group of friends around him, that are there to certainly kind of support him. And when he realizes just how he has treated them, especially the Kikai Noids, this entire season, I think it definitely is sort of a punch in the face. And I think the kids really do go out of their way, not meaning to teach him a lesson, but just by Gaon seeing the sort of the ideas and the messages and things like that their kids are doing, just treating this Kikai Noid a certain way, being very accepting of him. I love the fact that Gaon certainly thinks to himself, you know what, I really got to shape up. I really personally have to be a little bit better. So to even see him go up to the Kikai Noid kid and hand him his ball back and even thank the kid for the valuable lesson that he taught Gaon in this episode, I thought was really beautiful. I truly did. And the fact that he goes and tries to even sacrifice himself to give Kaido and the rest of the team sort of a chance to beat the bullfighting world in here, I think really speaks wonders in regards to, or speaks volumes, I should say, in regards to Gaon's character and really just his growth in here. I mean, I don't want to say it felt like, oh, this was just such a a simple idea. I'm surprised that he hasn't figured this out sort of earlier. I wouldn't have minded the idea if there was maybe even something else that happened or something even more impactful that happened for Gaon. But I really love the message that is sent. I truly did, and I'm really glad that Gaon, because at the end of this episode, we see that even though they've already had sort of this bromance from time to time, right? Even though they can sort of get on each other's nerves. I mean, we've seen the bickering between Gaon and Jiren for such a long time. This really felt like it just sort of established and even reaffirmed the friendship that these two characters wind up having by the end. So I was really glad that it wind up not only bringing Gaon and Jiren closer together, but really giving Gaon just another mindset to have against his, when it comes to his own people, and really learn to be just as accepting of them as even humankind and those kids certainly were to that little child Kikainoid in this episode. So really great stuff when it comes to Gaon, to be perfectly honest with you. And I will say this too, just a quick side mention here for Jiren. Even though we do see Jiren kind of getting a little bit of ahead of himself, kind of jumping to conclusions, blaming Gaon for something that he necessarily didn't do, right? Like when I look at that interaction between Gaon and the Zenkaiju gear, I don't necessarily see him treating him specifically like that, because it is sort of like a gear or a Kikainoid or a machine or whatever the case may be. I just felt it was more or less the idea that he really put something hard work into trying to provide Kaido with some food, and this thing kind of messes it up, right? Like I probably would have acted the same exact way in regards to that, but just based off of Gaon's sort of situation and how he has treated Kikainoids in the past, I clearly understand why Jiren certainly jumped to that particular conclusion. But it's also great to see Jiren being man enough to apologize and realize he shouldn't have jumped to conclusion that quickly, and kind of I don't want to say giving him the benefit of the doubt or say, but at least be a little bit more open to finding out why Gaon certainly treated this, the Zenkaiju gear the way that it certainly did. So if he's man enough to admit that he's wrong about jumping to conclusions, that's another trait about Jiren that I certainly come to find and appreciate here this week. The other character that continues to impress me in here is in fact the Stacy, the Stacy storyline that we wind up having. And quick honorable mention, one of my favorite scenes in this episode was getting the opportunity to see Sichin just staring down Stacy the entire time, just literally watching this man like, you better not try anything, okay, because I'm watching you sort of mentality. Like, I got my eyes on you. I absolutely love the fact that Sichin's not giving up an inch when it comes to Stacy, knowing damn well that this guy is just no good at the end of the day. So but again, I continue to truly love this story. We see Ijirood has given Stacy really all he needs to face the Zenkaigers this time around, clearly boosting the abilities of the Battle Caesar Robo. He's got its edition number 2 here this week that we wind up getting the opportunity to see. But we see, despite the idea that Stacy now has this power, he's still going back to the candy shop to go ahead and speak with Yichan. I love the fact that Kaido even comes across them actually meeting and Stacy back there at the shop, even deciding to spend his time just chilling outside to kind of see how that conversation between Yichan and Stacy certainly goes. We get to see that Stacy in here learns a little bit more about Kaido's parents, understanding that they vanished 10 years ago, learning that they were in fact sort of engineers. And I just love just seeing that the actor that portrays Stacy, just really seeing the the things turn in his head as he's trying to kind of make the connective pieces, whether that's to his own personal life or what that means for Kaido's situation, who certainly knows. But they continue to kind of push this element that maybe there is a bigger connection between Kaido and Stacy than they're certainly letting us know, and it definitely feels like it's certainly revolving around their parents. But it does fascinate me in the sense that I am kind of wondering why Stacy is continuing to go down this path. Like, I know that he certainly wants to prove something to his father, but you clearly see the idea of him leaving the candy shop in here, realizing that this might be his last time that he gets the opportunity to be there, and seeing just the kindness and the thoughtfulness of Yichan to really welcome him back at any particular point in time. It really puts sort of Stacy in a really weird dilemma, and I really want to see how this is certainly going to play out, because it feels like it's going to be very emotional and very personal for both Stacy along with Kaido. Like, is the question of destroying him, like in the sense of destroying Kaido to prove his father wrong and besting him, is that worth more than the idea of sort of forming friends and family that you certainly no longer have in your life, right? The idea of being accepted and being brought in into a group sort of thing. You know, Stacy clearly has been a loner. His mother passed away. Barashitara has not been the dad of the year by far sort of thing. So, you know, clearly somebody who's very much alone, trying to find a spot where he certainly fits in. This is a fantastic opportunity for him to do so. Why he's making this decision in here to face off against Kaido, that I certainly don't understand, especially when we've seen the threat from Zox Goldtweaker that says, listen, if you attack Kaido or you try and bring harm to him, I'm gonna just spill the beans to Yi-chan so she can clearly see who you are in reality as a person, and how is that certainly gonna sit with you, right? And we've seen before that Stacy, not the biggest fan of that idea, so Stacy certainly is struggling. And so when it comes to next week's episode, I cannot wait to see how this kind of unfolds. I think next week's episode is going to be a huge episode, not just because of the fact that we're going to get the opportunity to see the Battle Caesar Robo 2 facing off against the Zenkaiju-Oh or anything like that, but I just think when it comes to, again, the personal, the emotional level of Kaido versus Stacy, some of the maybe back and forth dialogue that we're certainly going to get, I'm ready for it. I'm honestly ready for it. Because listen, when it comes to them fighting, you know, I'm pretty sure that the Battle Caesar Robo is jacked up when it comes to power. But if there's one thing that I've learned all season long, he's not a fighter. He's a lover. He's not a fighter when it comes to Stacy. And I've seen the Zenkaigers just mop the floor with this guy. Maybe he might put up a little bit more of a fight. But at the end of this episode next week, I'm not expecting Stacy to, well, maybe he might impress me just a little bit more. But I really do feel like it's probably going to be the same end result, and I wouldn't be surprised if we really get Kaido even pulling Stacy even closer to the light side by the end of next week's episode. But regardless of what happens, I'm really excited for next week, despite the episode that we wind up getting in here. And one of the things that really kind of stuck out to me was the hesitancy that Kaido winds up having at the very end when Zox and him are combined as the Zenkaiju-Oh, and they're like, let's go. He's like, let's go. You know, I think it's Zox, not Zox. Yeah, Zox as 2 Kaiser. He's like, you know, let's go. Let's go ahead and handle this business, Kaido. And Kaido's very much hesitant to go ahead and face off against Stacy. So I think Kaido probably might hold back a little bit. Maybe he's gonna be the, you know, the very good guy in here and trying to speak to him more than fight him. But we'll definitely see. So look forward for a thrashing next week and some great sort of interpersonal relationship building between Kaido and Stacy, and we'll see exactly where it lands for a Stacy character. Other quick honorable mention, a great formation for the Zenkaiju drill here. Another V-Rex mode, if you will, paying homage to that classic formation. And then the Sentai gear that they utilized here in this week was the Gingaman gear, where they used the Black Knight as a way to go ahead and sort of calm down the bulls that the bullfighting world wind up creating in here. I think Sichin says apparently he has a way with bovines, which is a type of cattle animal. So think of like bulls, buffaloes, bisons, cows, and things like that. They all kind of work in tune that way. So I thought it was a really great utilization of the gears. I thought it was a really great power set to certainly utilize, even though it only worked for a few seconds. I thought it made for a really great scene and sequence here in this week's episode. But overall, guys, again, you know, this episode wasn't anything special to me, with the exception of the great character work for both Gaon and Stacy. Other than that, I really could have done without the rest of the stuff that we wind up getting. Nothing to really get me super pumped for this episode. So just an okay episode, I guess, at the end of the day. But listen, again, these are just simply my A+ opinions. At the end of the day, though, I want to know yours. What did you guys think of Zenkaiger episode number 22? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, guys. And yes, we will be back this Saturday going live at noon Central Time for another episode of A+ Morphinominal. So certainly join us then. And if you have any thoughts about episode number 22, if I missed any character moments, plot details, storylines that you want to go ahead and continue to discuss, let your thoughts be known in the comment section, and I certainly will go ahead and get back to you guys. But other than that, guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for me here. So in the meantime, do me a big favor, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, keep it A+. Full throttle, non-stop. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.